Okay, everyone, welcome to another session of our great user group. Today it's about the OutSystems governance model. We have today with us Paulo Melo. He's an OutSystems certified trainer. He works for IT and he loves OutSystems, of course.
Yes, I do.
For what are the rules for today? So basically, our rules on engagement. So this is like on a webinar. Your phones and microphones and cameras are not enabled. You have here a Q&A section on the app. So please use it if you have any questions that you want to make to Paulo. And this it will be recorded and it will be shared afterwards. You will receive it on the link on your email. At the end of the session, we're going to have a small feedback form where we are going to please fill it out for us to know how to improve our user groups, and also we're going to have a raffle for three what do you call it?
Swag kits.
Yeah, three swag kits to give to the people that will answer that feedback survey. Okay, so feel free to fill it out. Still, some small announcements. There's the calls to speakers of the next step. If you want to submit a talk, you're still on time, so hurry up. The agenda is not closed. Or if you want to become an OutSystems user group organizer, so if you want to be to have all the fame and glory that we also have, you can also fill subscription for us to check it out and help the OutSystems community throughout the world. Again, this is the announcement that everyone knows, but next step is coming next 15, 16 of November. Please register. There will be a lot of new content and a lot of news to share with everyone. So that is the place to be. Although it's online, but feel free to join. And I'll be stop sharing, and let's get the show on the road with Paulo. You can share now.
Okay. So I am sharing the screen. Welcome to this user group. My name is Paul Mel. Thank you for the introduction. I'm an instructor at ITAP. And today we are going to talk a little bit about the OutSystems governance model. Our agenda will be about the governance model by itself, what is a governance framework, how does OutSystems cope with it, mainly on two basic things regarding this infrastructure security and the pipeline, the CI/CD pipeline that they have developed and used. And let's go. So let's start to clarify what is governance. Governance is a term that complies to very different things, and I don't believe that there is only one true way of explaining what it means. It involves a set of relationships between the company management, the board, the shareholders, the stakeholders. It creates a structure where the company objectives are set and the means that need to be attained to monitor performance and things that need to be determined. Others say that it is a framework of rules, relationships, and systems and processes by which authority is exercised by the management and controlled in corporations. This means that these are the mechanisms where we can define who is held accountable and who controls the company, and the processes that control the company. But different companies will have different needs. You know that banks, they want to have revenue, they sell money, they want to get more money, but they need to comply not only to the internal regulations, but also to national regulations for each country. So this means that we need to have at least a small common framework where we can set up a way to comply with those type of requirements. Basically, the main things are we need to know who did what and when. This means that we have traceability in place, and we need to know who can do what, so we can have security in place. Those are basically the main things that define the way a governance model is implemented in a company. So how does OutSystems implement a governance model? Well, OutSystems thought about creating a governance framework. And the suggested framework consists of 4 stages, and in each stage there are different processes. The 4 stages are the setup, the software development lifecycle, monitoring and event management, and continuous delivery. And depending on the maturity of the company, each of these stages may be more or less extensive and may be more or less implemented on each different company. So what is the setups phase? Through the infrastructure configuration, possible setups are selected from the possible basic infrastructure, shared infrastructure, dedicated pipeline, dedicated infrastructure that you define, and depending on the size of the company, what you can use in order to create and set up those environments. Then through selection and onboarding, business developers are identified. So you need to identify who needs to do what and when, and the process to set up those are defined, and you need to collect in a table where you can relate the governance model inside the specific company. And using those privileges that the business developers have defined, the platform user management is used to construct our teams and our roles that we use on our daily base environment in OutSystems. With foundation and shared services, here we have the support that the IT can give to the company to set those guidelines and set that governance over those applications that the business developers have created and maintained. So all these 4 items are created and used to define a setup on a company. And depending on the maturity, as I have said before, it will be more or less defined and more or less used inside the company. Regarding the development lifecycle, most of you probably are either junior, senior developers or team leaders. So most of these things you know already. Depending on the strategy that is defined before of those applications, you know that you can have a workflow builder or a service studio to create our applications. And those are the main ways that you create something. Once those apps are developed and tested, they need to be pushed to the production. So there needs to be a kind of a release and deployment management in place in order to comply with what the governance requires. And once that application is deployed into production, IT needs to manage those end users and their respective privileges. So user and access management must be defined for the end users of the application. And it is natural during the life of an application that you know that defects or new functionality may occur. We know that we have never done. We are always creating new things, implementing new things. Things perhaps stop working as they were initially intended to work. And so there must be a kind of incident management environment set up in order to fulfill those requirements. And as part of all this, if you have the correct maturity, you really need to have the quality assurance process in place. Further on, with monitoring and event management, this stage covers all those processes related to exceptions and events, things that happen when an application is working and the way that we can create and support the company. So with troubleshooting process, you can set up all the development and business applications, define what errors happened, what can be done, what can be improved. With auditing, it is also very important that you will define two main streams of information. So you have the IT teams that on the technical side can define and find what the platforms are replying, and the business owners can track the performance of those business processes that the company is supporting. And with application support and maintenance, the company will set a clear process where the end users will know how they should report an issue and manage the life cycle of that application. And of course, with event handling, we can set up and define how things are going on. And as before, depending on the maturity of the company, more or less of these things are in place. And finally, we go to the continuous delivery, which is the principle of building applications that can be released safely to production at any time on demand. So how can this be achieved? We need to have a training and certification process that we offer and OutSystems offers to help the company create awareness on the developers. This means that through a culture, you can change those business developers to align the correct line of business development that the company requires. We need to understand that we need to have more tests. We need to have more quality in place. So in order to have the correct pipeline, we need to change our culture in the way we do things. And as the company becomes more mature, the number of business developers will automatically grow. So the IT teams need to answer those demands in the setup requirements of the environment, the production environment, and also to connect the software development cycle, either with monitoring and continuous delivery. So now let's see how this is done in the OutSystems platform. The OutSystems infrastructure is composed by several environments, as we know. The policies that grant or revoke permissions are managed by using a role-based permission model. We know that permissions are configured in roles that are assigned to users. You can have also roles set up in teams. You can have definitions where you have specific applications with specific roles, and in order that you can isolate and define how those things are done. Okay, so basically OutSystems defines by default two types of users. One are the end users, the people who are going to use the application, and the other are the IT users. The IT users are the ones that have roles inside the environment in order to develop, test, transport software from one environment to the other. The IT users, as you know, are managed in lifetime or in service center, and the end users are managed by the application users of OutSystems. Now let's talk a little bit about CI/CD. CI/CD is a core part of the DevOps. It is more than a methodology. It's an approach that introduces automation and monitoring through different stages of the application lifecycle. This practice aims at empowering development teams to accelerate software release cycles with increased reliability and security. CI/CD represents continuous integration as the first part of CI. And this is the practice of merging the developer work in a single shared repository in a regular basis. We all know that in OutSystems, when we are using Service Studio and when we publish, we are putting our changes into our development server. So this way, all the developers are working on the common code base, and they all have the latest part of that information. And what are the benefits of using this? We know that in OutSystems, using our guidelines, we are breaking monolithic applications into smaller chunks that are more manageable and that are more easy to change. And those iterations of this software can be faster. So we are agile. This is a way to achieve. We are having speed. And the quality is also achieved because the software is constantly being monitored. So if we have testing on place, the software is always being run and the tests are being run, and we can have a green light saying that the software is okay. We have also better resource efficiency because CI is highly automated and can therefore reduce strains on the development teams. We all know the stress of reducing application backlogs and reduce costs. So this is a very good part to implement. And generally, if we can develop faster with Agile, we can have an increased user satisfaction, which means that the users are being able to receive new features with higher quality and fewer problems faster. Now let's talk about the CD part of this. The CD is continuous delivery, which generally refers to the automatic preparation of code and code changes for release in production, and to the automation of testing and code release. This is the general definition of a continuous delivery. So with continuous delivery, our code is uploaded to a repository so that automated tests such as unit tests, regression tests, and performance tests can be run to ensure the code is high quality. This approach does not ensure that our delivery code is as fast as easy as possible for operation teams, but someone is required to approve and push the release or update to production. And here comes the next step, the continuous deployment. With continuous deployment, we eliminate the need for human intervention and for on-demand release to production. So the code will move automatically from integration to release into a production environment, and testing is integrated into that process. The continuous deployment builds on the benefits of continuous delivery and is considered the next stage of a CI/CD pipeline. And mainly, what are the benefits? Well, we have speed. So continuous deployment means that we have ongoing innovation with a steady flow of new features or fixes going into the production. That's normal. We have faster deployment of higher quality code. So we have fewer errors and we have fewer results of broken code into the pipeline of the business. We have also an increased velocity of code delivery, so we can reduce the backlog. And in quality, the continuous flow of small iterations mean that problems have less impact and are easier to remediate. So greater productivity with fewer mistakes are achieved inside a continuous deployment environment. And for this, now I end my talk and I open for questions.
Okay, thank you, Paulo.
Thank you.
So chat for questions is open. And we have here one question. Can we consider that architecture dashboard and the discovery can be part of or even help in the governance of the project?
Yes, I would say so. The architecture dashboard is important on the definition at the development of the application itself, and should be taken into account when you are defining the governance model.
Okay. Also, I want to give the idea to anyone who wants to share any experience about how you have your governance model implemented on your customers or on your own company. If someone wants to jump in and share, you'll be more than welcome.
Is this Paul? I have a question from my own.
Mhm.
Is this type of content that you are talking about governance and so on? Is there any type of, if I want to learn a little bit to drill down on this, how can I learn this? Does OutSystems have any kind of certification and so on to assist me?
For governance, no. Let's say that they have now a DevOps certification to support the pipeline that they have constructed. I've seen the last demonstration that OutSystems has given regarding their pipeline, and they have quite a very interesting work with Jenkins as a support for integration, and also with Azure.
Okay.
And they are, in a way, they are creating. There is a document in OutSystems related to the governance that theoretically should be in two parts. Part one is already published. Second part, I believe it's still on the works. So basically, they are preparing things for the needs of other companies, and they are setting up the environments for that. But DevOps,
Okay,
it's a good way to have the certification, and we have on IT App, we have now in the future a training for that also to help support it.
That's good.
Okay, we have one more question here.
A few more.
Yeah, a few more now. One is from Marco. He asks, in terms of risk management, are there OutSystems tools? Do we use, or what tools do we use for risk management?
Automatic, I don't think so. Risk management, it depends on what is the risk. That's the problem of governance. You have several definitions, depends on the company, on what are the requirements. You can have information that you can get. We have a lot of information on our logs, on our events that we can take out from OutSystems and perhaps supply information specific for an audit. But that I know.
Yeah. If I can fill in just a little bit, if you have a team that is fully dedicated to build a CI/CD pipeline, so that team should know how to do automation. What usually happens is that there is a matrix that says if this release or that exists on that specific environment is okay or not to go to the next phase. So that team would have to run the tests and see, okay, if they are okay or not. That can be a part of risk management to know which tests are critical, and regression testing, API testing. So there's a lot of testing that can be done. But you or that team has to build those tools and to evaluate what is the health of that specific release.
Yes,
I guess
I
it
think
would be something like that.
I think we don't have a tool out of the box created in OutSystems
Yeah,
to do that
I think
automation.
so.
There are some frameworks for test integration on the BDD framework and all of that, but that will be something that needs to be implemented, put
Yeah,
it in practice.
yeah,
Yeah, OutSystem has a private tool that they showed on that demo they gave, that they do not distribute. They request us to call them and ask them for their assistance, and they will give us the tool. They have a tool for helping that integration of everything and automating tests and
Okay,
filling in the blanks that we need on the complete delivery pipeline.
okay, that's good
yeah.
to know. I think I
Okay.
have the link for that talk here. I'm just searching for it because it may be interesting to share with everyone.
Because it would be really awesome if every time we build some type of action, server action, that automatically some APIs that would be calling that would be built automatically out of the box without systems. That would be really awesome. We just needed to fill out what are the inputs and outputs. That would be really cool. But this is just me daydreaming.
So we have some more feedback here and questions. Another one is, how do we manage continuous deployment in OutSystems?
Well, now only with the tools that OutSystems has developed, because it is quite hard. They have created a lot of Python scripts that they have and a lot of tools to help them do that. That demo that they gave us, it's really interesting to watch if it is possible to have those link. I think it was only shared to partners, but
Yeah, it was in the partners webinar. That's what
yeah.
I was confirming.
So, but it would be very interesting to have a copy of that outside. It would really improve the ones who are interested on creating a deployment pipeline to at least to watch that and talk to them, because Duarte Castaño has done a nice job.
Okay, and from Marco also perhaps something that we want to share when thinking on security policies.
Well, Marco, are you talking about pen testing and so on, or is it something different? Yeah, because we can do some tests on the health check of the code, but you can also check, for instance, security policies. If you are familiar with the ISO 27001, the ISO for information security, they require some security policies. In fact, what happens with that is that, for instance, you may have like a login policy or for password policy. So when you're going to exchange your password, so you have to change it every, let's say, 30 days, and you cannot use the same password as before, and so on. Or you have to fill in a symbol, a number, and uppercase letters, and so on. Those things can be automated. So if you have a team that does automation, like regression testing, you can do those type of things there. If you are talking about security policies regarding pen testing, if you have any other things, you can also tell your automation team to run some scripts that can live on Burp Suite or the Zap tool. So tools that usually run for us to take just a simple look on the security part if there is something missing. Usually this, in projects where I've been, this is a little bit manual, but if you have a good automation team, you can have these automated. If you are on a bank, for instance, most definitely you will have to run those.
Yeah. So another question here from Enrique. You mentioned OutSystems tools or features in several steps of the governance process. What would be the OutSystems part in the CD part? Or should we use a third-party tool?
OutSystems already deliver. OutSystems is showing or having is putting some effort on lifetime with the APIs of lifetime, where we can control code, where it goes and how do you want to deliver, and also on Service Center, you have some APIs there, but in fact there is no automation thing. So they make it available for you to, okay, I want to do a delivery from this to that, I want to do this and so on, I want to roll back. But they only have the APIs for you to use it. What is going to orchestrate this? It's a different software, it's a different ball game, it's automation team again, something like that. OutSystems is putting you the knife and the fork, but they are there for you to eat, but you have to pick them up and you have to use those.
If I can add, they are working on things like that. They showed what they showed. It's exactly that. They have created plugins that use lifetime API, that they can extend the API of lifetime, and are linked with the Azure DevOps, and they have those actions communicate with the Azure DevOps environment. What we have in lifetime is that now we can control the passage of code from one environment to the other. And using those APIs, they are delivering the control to the Azure DevOps, and inside the Azure DevOps, they are requesting lifetime to execute what they need to execute. But of course, as I told you, there are things that they are working on them. They are still not public. Perhaps they still need to test more, or it's just case in case. If you really want those things, you can contact them, and the DevOps team working in OutSystems will help you set up those things up.
So we have another question that I think in part it has already been answered. How can we automate CI/CD? I mean, in the issue of code evolution between environments. So it's a bit what we're talking about already. There's no tool at the moment that do the perfect automation. There are APIs. There are that you can use with the automation team to put it in practice, but there's nothing already official to do that. I think they are thinking in the way to evolve to that process.
Yes, CD is still delivery and not deployment.
Yeah. Because there are specific tools just for this. This is not the specialty of OutSystems. OutSystems builds the product that we all know. But there are other specialized tools that specifically do this. So what they are doing, they are improving their product to be in a way that those tools can use it without too much of a hassle.
Hello, Elena. Thank you for sharing these links about the topic.
Those are some of the parts of the code that they are using. Thank you, Elena.
I was just checking in the general. There was a question from Marco, but it's the
Do we
same
want to
one.
give the mic to Marco? Is it possible? He's asking.
I think so.
Let's see. We have to set him as a host, right?
Yeah, yes, I think so.
Hey, Marco, you're on. I hope you have a nice pajama. I just don't know if you're on mute. You have to unmute yourself.
Aha, yes, I was talking for myself. Thank you.
Welcome, Marco.
Thank you. Thank you, Rui. Thank you, Ana Paulo. Paulo, very nice introduction of your presentation. I was thinking that if you could share some tips about some parts of the governance model that you just mentioned. So the security part was more about, do you have some tips that you can share how we use the lifetime user management tool? Mm-hmm. Do you have also other more complex, let's say, types of security models that you implement also when integrating with your CI/CD pipeline or other systems? So it's more to know if you have some tips. I hope the question is not too big.
Well, I don't have a lot of experience implementing CI/CDs in order to give you really tips on that. I know the theory behind it. I have seen some environments working with it. I would say that for the automation, you don't need any special security environment and security management in place. But what OutSystems gives you should be enough to create whatever you really want to do. Probably you will have service accounts that you would use inside the DevOps environment that you choose, either Jenkins or Azure. And those accounts will be the ones that create the work that needs to be done and talk to the lifetime environment. Regarding more complex things, well, it depends on the company. It depends on what you really need to implement, because, you know, IT guys are all for complexity. If they want, they can create an Airbus. Okay, I don't know if I answered, if it is an answer for your expectations, Marco.
Yes, and also who before complimented the other question, so thank you. Yes.
You're welcome.
One very cool thing also that it's fairly recent on Lifetime is that the IT users, so you can now use some type of Active Directory or so on to manage the IT users. That is also a good thing. So if you don't want to bother with user management, we could do that with end users. But now we can also do it with IT users, so and have it being managed elsewhere. So that is also a good thing that the security officers and so on some institutions, they like. Okay, because the user creation is always a vector where some attacks can be done, so we can impersonate someone and so on. So if we connect it to some type of user management like Active Directory, it's a very cool thing.
We have Elena here giving some feedback. Elena, do you want to jump in also as a host and share your experience? We can promote you too. So, oh, yes. I'm not sure if you are, okay, joining.
You also need to unmute.
You are still on mute, Elena. Just click on the button.
No, it's not working.
Can we unmute her?
Oh, actually, it's disabled, the option to unmute.
Oh, maybe it's not detecting the mic.
It was a great idea to have you sharing your experiences.
It's very nice seeing you, Elena.
Okay.
But she was talking about the CI/CD probe. Does anyone have any kind of experience with this one? It's a BDD framework.
Okay, we still have a couple of minutes if you want to share experiences, ask any other questions. If not, we can wrap up. No more questions? Oh, Elena is trying again.
Oh, we can hear you now.
Hello,
Welcome back,
hello, welcome.
Just because I entered without my headset and I had the configuration set off. So on the factory that I'm working on, it's very simple. I only have one environment, a middle environment from REG, where we have some automated tests in BDD. So when we want to promote the code to the REG, there's a lifetime trigger that will go there, and we only allow the availability from Jenkins, because they use more or less it was modified by a guy, but they use more or less the code from Python that was available on the repository. And if the BDD results that are also synced with the Jenkins platform passes, then we can go to the test environment. So we have a pre-availability. It's only not on all the logic, it's only a few code, and namely it's a sort of a calculation engine that is very critical because it is used in some critical steps, and we have this. So
you move from development to regression,
REG,
and then if
the
regression
REG
is okay,
triggers, yeah, we have the
then
trigger.
you go for QA.
Yeah,
you have a trigger to do that. To
if it passes, we can promote the code to QA. But I knew some factories that have a more complex, which is more or less similar to one that you might have told Paulo. I only could come across in the middle, but the one from the Partner Success webinar, when they had the architect dashboard, where the architect dashboard results were integrated into the Azure DevOps. And I know some factories that have these results as a decision. If you can, on Jenkins, enable automatic deploy to several environments. For instance, you can configure what is the level of technical depth that you want, and that kind of thing. Okay. And that can be a decision when you promote to one environment to another. But there are some also with some accurate results on SAST, but that they are more complex. They are not so easy.
Yeah. In my opinion, what architecture dashboard should also look, because architecture dashboard is only looking for development. So it's pointing to development. So you see what is happening. But you really want to test is a regression environment, because the team can be working on several things there on development. So if I have a team of 15 people working, it will be a little bit unstable. But
The ones
it
that
would be
have
cool
this
if you
kind
could
of
point.
vision,
If
it's very hard, because to have 90% code stability, it's something that they cannot have a meaningful description or something like that, that they will block, will deploy.
Yeah, because the work is always ongoing. Yeah. So you can have unfinished work that is being evaluated. So the cool thing would be if we could pass whatever is good to go to regression, and have the architecture dashboard pointing to regression, saying, okay, this is at least stable code. This is not ongoing code. That part would be cool.
There
as
are two
well.
things.
So there's a lot of
It gives
cool
more
things to do.
it gives more accountability to developers, and so at least if they want the code to be tested, everything has to be tuned to not have error, or at least if something is not okay, it should have a justification for snoozing or something like that, to have something that can
proper
be a
justification
justification.
for false positive.
And for that, it helps a lot, because a tech lead cannot have 10 eyes, and having this, it's very helpful.
Yeah.
But that's something that some factories doesn't understand, that architect dashboard sometimes is only for tech leads, or only for, if this goes to a lower
it's
level,
for everyone.
It's for everyone. And if that kind of tool can be used as a decision point, that will enforce the shift left methodology. So you should go at the very beginning trying to develop to properly and with the best practice and so on. So what I might understand is, okay, so security architecture dashboard has only some items, and what they are, I'm not aware, but maybe some points, not a pen test, or not some, but some checks from vulnerabilities should be more enforced, because OWASP on 22.1 was asking for web design to implement these on the logic, and to have this more as a system. So the automation also should include more security, and I think that's one.
If you have regression testing, if you have regression testing team, then you can put some use cases there and see if OWASP is the top 10 is being
the last
and so on.
One was I don't remember the name, but it was the first one, the design, I think, the security by design. It wasn't missing that. Automation was one of the main thing that they would recommend for us, to have this as an automated and to be part of the process of evaluation, a part of technical Caldas a rainha, you know.
That's very cool.
There's always a zondar.
Thank you so much, Elena.
Thank you for sharing, Elena. Any other questions? So
I guess that's it.
Yes, we are finishing. We are finishing our time too. Once again, I want to ask you to fill in the survey that you'll receive after the session ends, and we will sort. We'll raffle the swag kits for the three initial answers. So be fast and answer. Please give us your feedback. It's really important for us to keep improving our user groups.
Okay. Well, thanks everyone. See you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you. See
Bye.
you.